Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for IFMA's Wednesday webinar series. Today, we have a webinar for you with Kimberly Clark Professional. It is Revolutionizing Restroom Management, a Smart Restroom Playbook for Facility Managers. Please let us know where you're joining us from. My name is Kim Jackson, and I'm joining you from Houston, Texas. We'll also be taking questions during the webinar. So if you have questions in the meantime, please put those in the comments area, and our panelists will be answering those. So today we're going to be talking about how facility leaders are cutting consumable waste, labor hours, and customer complaints. So things that I think all FMs are dealing with on a daily basis. It is my pleasure now to welcome our partners, Steve and Joanna with Kimberly Clark Professional. All right, guys, I'll let you take it away.
Thank you. Good morning. Can everybody hear me?
I can
hope
hear
so. Thank you for letting us know. We've had a little bit of technical difficulty, so I want to be transparent. Hopefully this will go flawlessly. I'm Joanna Hunter. I'm actually joining you from San Diego, California. I'm joined here with my colleague, Stephen, who's a key account manager. I think he's all the way on the East Coast. So we have you covered coast to coast with Kimberly Clark. We'll also introduce a friend of ours, John Sutherland, later. So today we're going to talk about restroom technology. And as we move forward, a few of the key takeaways will be reducing, much as Kim said, reducing waste. How do you improve labor efficiencies? How do you even boost occupant perception with the technology? How do you up level some of the dispensers? And then how do you, if you're making an investment into restroom technology, where's the ROI for this? Or how do you even use the analytics to optimize staffing or product usage, or even meet sustainability goals? So let's step back and take a higher level overview of the technology. In today's world, chances are you're already using smart technology in a building. 90% of the buildings already use at least one form of smart building technology, and almost 80% of decision makers like you are investing in the technology to improve cleaning processes. Some of the most common smart solutions in buildings are things like lighting systems, HVAC, even security badge systems. And actually, I had a client who had a smart technology linked to his rat traps. So it's everywhere. Why not invest it into a restroom, which is one of the most highly trafficked, most complained about, least understood rooms in your facility? So the technology for smart can give you intelligence, visibility, and even control to transform restroom servicing and user experience. So what is it for today's restroom? This is really what it's all about. Is you know that when the restroom isn't managed properly, it brings unwanted attention to operations. It unintentionally signals a lack of control over restroom cleanliness. Hopefully, not many of these look familiar to you, but I'm sure if you've traveled through or traveled through an airport, or even attended a stadium event, you're walking into roll towel sitting on top of dispensers, or trash overloaded, or just attendants not being able to keep up with traffic, or not understand what's going on in the restroom, so somewhat so in hybrid offices. So there is a better way. You can use technology as a proven software where to realize better options. So we all know that restrooms are traditionally received as less attention with the smart technology systems. but we know that customer perception starts with the restroom, particularly in work environments. People are coming back to work, several days a week after a pandemic, and so the perception of hygiene and is this clean enough? Am I going to get sick? Have we made any improvements? People are really thinking about that and noticing it. Actually, in a study that we did, eh, our a few years ago, respondents said a bad restroom equals poor management. And that's important when you think that the typical office worker visits the restroom 3 to 4 times a day, and that's hundreds of opportunities to create a positive impression or otherwise. The most meaningful innovations are actually focused on 3 significant areas, and these are the areas that we talked about, at the beginning. So, how are you measuring or making an impact on sustainability? How are you better serving customers or patrons or tenants or guests? And how are you reducing or impacting operational costs? So, when considering an investment into the smart restroom technology, you're going to want to partner with someone who can build a strong case for ROI by providing data to support the outcomes. Now, the outcomes that our technology is really focused on is much what we're talking about today, and that's reducing waste up to 80%. And that data converts into metrics for your C-suite who care about greenhouse gas emission and landfill avoidance, or even cost reduction. Also enhancing the occupant experience, we like to measure that. We believe that using smart restroom technology can reduce complaints and work orders up to 75%. And of course, the restroom technology can transform janitorial labor productivity because it eliminates the unnecessary checking of restroom conditions or the wondering what's going on in the 7th or 8th floor. So Onvation can save up to 90% of the time taken to check the dispensers, which could be up to a fourth of a day for a cleaner in an 8-hour shift. This can equate, and we show that hundreds of hours annually that a cleaner can allocate to other things, whether it's big story stuff like labor intensive tasks like floor care or deep cleaning, or it's as simple as, do I clean up the coffee spill or do I run and check my restroom? So it's giving that empowerment to a cleaner to understand how to manage their day and giving them hours to improve, even better improve what they respond to and how they deliver. So one aspect that happens when you have smart restroom system is something. It's the data. So how do you prove that things are working that you've invested in? And often, smart restroom system will give you a scorecard that's shared with leaders, and you can help track opportunities, results, and measurements. And these measurements include, as you can see in this scorecard, this is a sample of our system scorecard, and we track sustainability and cost savings, complaint reduction, cleaner efficiency as it relates to responding to the alerts, and then of course the product usage. And then tracking the online dispenser connectivity is also important. We assign customer success managers who work directly with facility leaders to ensure that they're getting the most from the system and tracking strong progress toward goals. These goals can be told and shared to upper management, to stakeholders, even to the team to support improvement. The next slide is an actual scorecard that we did for one of our customers who was really interested in sharing with their stakeholders how they're impacting their sustainability goals. So we can even, a lot of technology, or the smart restroom technology has a really bigger picture and a micro picture to help operations. This next slide sometimes it's really hard to grasp, how does this work? Like, it seems so complicated, but it's actually really simple. For anybody who even uses earbuds, it's almost the same type of thing. So consider the little Bluetooth technology that is in your earbud. That earbud technology, among other scientific background, like algorithms and things measuring the roll towel and how often people are coming through, but consider the simple technology that a dispenser.
I think we may have lost Joe there for a minute. So let me pick up again. Mentioned earlier a little bit of technical difficulty getting in, but what Joe was kind of talking about was how the technology works and your AirPods and Bluetooth technology. So really, what we have is a smart fit device that can fit inside the dispenser, and an actual sensor that goes inside the dispenser. And what it actually does is shoot a Bluetooth signal to a wireless Bluetooth signal to a gateway. That gateway takes the information, and then it actually goes up into the cloud, and then it actually disseminates back down to a manager's dashboard. So the technology itself and how it can really function within a washroom setting is really in the roll towel dispenser, in the bath tissue dispenser, and then in the skincare dispensers. Again, early it's measuring the level of the consumables in real time of what's going on to kind of give the overall health of what's going on. So the default is typically a cellular Bluetooth signal up into that gateway to the cloud and then disseminate back down into a manager's dashboard, which will send again real-time alerts, need-based cleaning. So really, what the advantage of this is, if you take a facility or a building, and the day porter's responsibility first check is to kind of go in and rather than doing a 40-story check of every restroom to see what the consumable levels are like, it's a very time-consuming task. They can actually open up their app, and this smart restroom technology is going to actually showcase and show them how to and where the needs are. They could say, hey, we need to go to the sixth floor women's room, second stall is low, and you can actually set the levels, what percentage level you want to actually send the alert. So if a roll towel gets down to about 10% left of volume being able to dispense, that's when it can actually set the alert. The other nice thing with the technology that we have that we've launched within the past couple of months is the sensor itself actually installs into the dispenser, and it actually shoots a laser to the actually top of either the bath tissue roll or the roll towel, and it really kind of gauges the distance. So the latest iteration we have, like technology is always evolving, and it's going to give a more accurate level and some more functionality, being with the AI aspect and being, analytical to be able to predictive analytics. In terms of what this allows in terms of consumable savings is, it really allows for to alleviate the need for premature changeouts. That's one of the big aspects where if you don't have this technology and part of the cleaning protocol of the servicers to kind of go in and do those restroom checks. And there's maybe about 25% left on the roll, but they're not going to be back to that restroom for maybe another couple hours. They may instinctively just kind of take that out and then just put a new roll in so they don't have to worry about it and run the risk of getting a complaint ticket about servicing that restroom. So right then and there, just the waste of what's left not being used is can really add up over time. So that's just kind of the general aspects, kind of a 10,000-foot view of how the technology works from the sensor to the gateway to the cloud to kind of a manager's dashboard, and then all the way to an app on the day servicer's phone to kind of send real-time notifications. So we can click over to the next slide. Oh, this teed it up perfectly for me because this is actually where I come into play. That was really great information that Joanna was able to share, and I'm glad I was able to kind of get tag teamed in to kind of just walk through that last slide and some of the 10,000 foot view of how it works. But really what I want to do now is to kind of expand a bit more and share one of our powerful case studies that really kind of showcases how the smart technology can drive real world impact. And not just in terms of cost savings, but also in enhancing client satisfaction, validating service, which is important, advancing sustainability goals, and all while improving employee engagement. We're going to be exploring the transformation of the CMT Tower, which is the fifth tallest building in Minneapolis. If you could click to the next slide, that'd be great. This iconic building became a model for how smart restroom technology can modernize facility management. From reducing waste and optimizing labor to enhancing tenant satisfaction, the story is a blueprint for how innovation and sustainability can go hand in hand. And as Joanna mentioned earlier, we're also joined by John Sutherland, and John Sutherland is the Vice President of Sales for GDI Services, and who played a key role in this transformation. He's going to share firsthand insights into the challenges, the breakthroughs, and the measurable results that came from embracing smart restroom solutions. So, John, if you're ready, I got some questions that I want to kind of ask, and if you kind of expand on the experience that you had here. So, John,
Yeah, thank you,
nice
Stephen.
to see
Thanks
you
for
again.
having me.
Welcome. So out of the gate, let's start big picture. What initially motivated your team to explore smart restroom technology at the CMT Tower?
Well, what motivated us on it was real simple. A customer had put the system in and was not getting the ROI. She put the janitorial service out to RFP, and we learned during that process that that was one of the initiatives, and that made it real simple for us to adopt it. And that's, just one of the approaches we take is if a customer or a site would like to engage in some level of technology or put in something that's, maybe not something that someone else is bringing to them, but they have an initiative, we work very hard to make that a reality. And so that was our main initiative. Of course, we had other initiatives of really being able to see firsthand what these systems were about. I mean, we were early adopters. This was one of the first installations in North America. This was, I believe, most technologies are on their third generation now. This was in the beta testing into the first generation phase. So it was very new, very fresh. And I always like to be in on something like that, because then you can have some feedback on it as well. Just the initiative of always looking for ideas that go beyond a clean program of janitorial within a site. I mean, we've all, cleaned up our chemical use programs over the last 20, 30 years. We've all gone to microfiber and, really in intentional efforts in reducing paper waste during the cleaning process. And now we're taking it, one step even further and helping completely move and have a paradigm shift within the approach of cleaning a restroom. And I think that's been one of the key things that we wanted to see.
Yeah, and that's great points. And you talk about, the beta testing, from where the beta testing was to where it is now. I mean, the technology, just like anything in your day-to-day life, is always evolving and getting more specific and just better as it goes. And that's a little bit what I alluded to with our latest launch on the Smart Fit. So, but just kind of, continuing on, just generally, how did implementing the technology, align with kind of the broader sustainability goals? Is there any specific environmental or social outcomes that you were targeting, from your perspective, from the client's perspective?
I think the biggest thing is just a better client experience. The occupants of the building are there using the restrooms every day, and we have been trained in our business that this is going back to the 80s. The best thing you deliver on is a clean restroom. You have it touched up during the day, and you have it restocked during the day. And that process can be, you have the cleaner, if you think about it, they have to fit into that process. And so just having that interaction, it's an uncomfortable interaction to begin with, but then being able to have a technology where it makes it less uncomfortable and makes it, more of a natural we're able to see now in a dashboard exactly what's needed in that restroom and where it's needed before we even go to that floor, before we even service it. So instead of 2 large restroom runs a day to make sure every single restroom, by the way, there's 84 restrooms in this tower. So, it's a full-time job for 2 people. Generally, our day staff there consists of 1 male, 1 female to handle the different types of restrooms. And so the interaction becomes more, they know exactly where to go and what it's going to need when they get there. So they can continue to do a light checkup and cleanup in the area, but they don't have to check every single stall, every single dispenser. And the time savings is just amazing. And so the product savings, as it turned out, if we're ready for that next slide, one of the biggest savings that we saw was in the budget, 45% savings, and that's in the paper budget. Well, okay, that's a dollar savings, but what about the paper impact of 45%? And that's, I think, one of the biggest things that really was an outcome that was so positive here is we didn't have bins of partially used toilet rolls and paper towel rolls in the restrooms, or I'm sorry, in the basement, somewhere being stored. And then I think generally people either have people take that home, cleaners use it for stuff. You might use it in the back of the house, but we got rid of all that. And then on top of that, just saving in paper product 45%. It's an amazing feat. So
yeah, it's impressive. I mean, $6,000 in janitorial savings, 45% reduction in consumables. I mean, just taking a quick step back, because you had kind of touched upon it in some of your previous comments, but the operational changes that took place once the smart system was in place, what shift did you see? Was it a shift from kind of a more reactive to a proactive cleaning on the ground? Was there anything on the operational side, shifting the operation side? I know you did touch upon some of it, but was there anything else in addition to that, from reactive to proactive?
I think, yeah, I mean, I'm going to go back to the partnership we had with the property ownership. And that partnership really began with them saying, making it kind of a deal with us where if we do have a labor savings, we can pass some of that on. But really what we wanted to do is to leverage that to deliver a better product. In this case, it's cleaning, right? So we had a lot of common areas, including a very heavily used lobby that instead of being touched up twice a day was being deep cleaned 4 to 5 times a day. And with the elements, I'm right downtown Minneapolis. You guys are East Coast, West Coast. 6 months a year, we have very tough elements here with snow and ice, as well as all the stuff they put on the roads with the sand and salt. That was all coming into this lobby and up the escalator and trailing all the way through. We have in Minneapolis, it's 9 miles worth of skyway system. So everybody enters and goes into buildings through different lobbies, and we just happen to be one of those intakes. So that being the case, it gave us the ability with the partnership to really focus in back with taking that time savings and leveraging it back into the building. And who benefited from this? It's the occupants of the building. They had cleaner restrooms, they had cleaner amenity spaces, they had cleaner common areas. And that was shown to us in just a number of different ways. One of them was our Kinsley rating scores. When we took over the janitorial at the building, the prior incumbent and had the scores in for the restrooms specifically at a 3.0 in their Kinsley ratings, which is not very good. You want to improve on that. And we took it within the first 6 months to 3.5. And then since it's been at a 4.5, 3.5, 4.5. And then we took it since to a 4.7 where it's remained. And so we're very proud of that. And that was done in conjunction and in partnership with that. So how is that an operational benefit? How is that an operational change? I mean, it gave us this tremendous opportunity to recognize and reward the staff for that. They were the ones that delivered that. I wasn't the one that delivered it. The manufacturer of the system wasn't the one. The ownership of the building, they were not the ones. It was the actual staff. And one of the things in janitorial that we're always looking for is the ability to be able to credit them when they deserve credit, which is more than 90% of the time. But all we focus on is that 3% where they missed something or something's not looking right. And so this really just gave a tremendous opportunity for us to be able to incentivize and reward the staff. And it did a long way to create a definite team environment. We also saw that in just even having different incentive levels for the people that ran the system during the day staff versus the ones that reset the entire building at night, and being able to have different KPIs fixed to their different their different time periods and their different duties, and being able to recognize that through again, awards recognition. We would do gift cards, challenges. We would also just do, lunch is on us tonight, like we would do those kind of things. And the property management team and the ownership, they got involved in that as well and participated. And so it was just, I think it just really provided an opportunity and a platform for camaraderie among the team. And I think that's what we really wanted. So
yeah, and just kind of adding into that, just as a follow-up, how did the team respond to the new technology? Did it change how they viewed their roles? Did it change how they engaged with their work? What can you share any insights on the frontline employees and how
if you've
maybe
ever
the
been
technology...
it's a great question. If you've ever been involved in the cleaning business, there are 100 ways to clean things. And there are 100 different chemicals that's the only chemical that works. This is the only process. Within that, though, there's a lot of great tricks, and I've learned a lot of great things over the years. Some of them haven't worked out. It just kind of depends on the situation or, what you do adopt. Well, this was an interesting study, and this was an interesting thing to really watch, because this was something new. Nobody likes anything new, right? And so at first, we got major pushback. And this is what I would say to those considering smart restroom technology in their site. Adopt this from top down. All of your people need to be on the same page that we're going to make this system work, because it's not the responsibility of the manufacturer once it gets put in. It's the responsibility of those managing the system every day and responding to it and using it correctly. That's who's responsible to make sure the ROI is there. And in this case, we had to make sure that people were going to follow those guidelines, and that there was some pain with that, because the paradigm shift is also interruptive, and it's a different thing from what everyone was used to and being told for 30 years how to do it, what to do. And so instead, like I said, we used the incentivizing. We had a positive way to do it. However, the paradigm shift we saw within our team is that if we would transfer someone from that building, that particular site, their first question, if they were involved in the restrooms, their first question would be, does that have a smart restroom system? If it doesn't, I'm not interested. So that spoke the world to us, just because if you give them the correct tool, they're not going to want to go away from it. And yeah, we know there's the pain in it, and we know there's people that we don't want to be tracked. We don't want to be, have people know where, what this is all about, or have this new technology that we have to follow. We've heard all those reasons, and some of them, they're more powerful, and if they're not followed through on and it's not shown the benefit, people will reject it, and then you're not going to get the ROI. And that is a shame when I hear that, because once you do get the ROI and once you get things on track, it's going to make sense that this is what you would do in a facility.
And what kind of time period do you think, in terms of, the frontline workers, adopting and being comfortable with the new technology, that it translated into that ROI, that, we talk about that janitorial savings and reduction of consumables? Was there, a period of time, obviously something new, and you get, this, very good training for it and benchmarks that, and check-in periods, to make sure, to your point earlier, that it's being utilized the correct way. But was there a time period where, it took the embracement of the frontline workers to actually start to see the return that, was being anticipated?
We saw that what we did is we set a KPI of percentage of usage of the actual product, and
Mhm.
and how that was done is, one of the challenges is if people don't follow the system guideline of how it's supposed to operate, which would be natural in most cases. Like, you would think, oh no, that's not how it's supposed to go. But if you're going to get down to zero on the cores, you follow a certain pattern of how you stock and how you move things around in the product. And so we're talking paper product specifically. And so what we did there was we set a KPI, and we hit, in the first 30 days, we hit that KPI in the low end. Then we incentivized with greater incentives to get to the high end. And, I think in your world, you would know this, and anyone on the side of smart technology, our early change out percentage was below 5% many months. And so, that was a huge win. I believe we had to be at 25 initially, and then we kind of dialed that in year 2 to 20 and below. And then we just saw from these numbers, we actually had even greater numbers in following years after that. So it just, the biggest thing though is just, you can't let up on the gas. You gotta just make sure everybody's watching it all the time. Every month matters, because every day matters, every week matters. But when they do the system correctly, you're going to see great results. So,
Yeah, and it sounds like, a good best practice would be to, if the investment's made in incorporating and adopting the smart restroom technology, because it is an investment to do this, is, in addition to, on our side of, making sure that everybody's trained appropriately and that we're doing our due diligence to make sure it's being utilized the same way, but is to establish, some metrics and KPIs to make sure that, that it's being followed through, that you can kind of see that return. So that's kind of a takeaway that I got, from what you just mentioned about, best practice. Would there be any other best practices that you could share that maybe you use to, to show this? And I guess I'll tie it into one other aspect of a question is, you did touch on it a little bit earlier, but, the in the build, the tenant feedback, what type of role did that play in evaluating just the success of, adopting this into the property?
I think a small percentage might be that there was less uncomfortable interaction. I mean, it's an uncomfortable interaction when you're wanting to go in and use a restroom and somebody wanting to clean it. It's just, so there's less of that. I think
I'm guilty of that too, by the way. So
yeah,
especially at airports.
Well, and if you feel uncomfortable as a passenger, or, think about how the cleaner feels. It's the same. It's a two-way street on that. So there may have been some of that as an improvement, just an overall exchange or interaction. But I think the bigger thing is that we had a good partnership with the ownership. And so they allowed us to deliver a cleaner restroom, which we took to heart, because we didn't want to lose the ability to lose their trust, or, have that not go well. And so what we did is we delivered a cleaner restroom, and that meant taking those extra times and delivering better corners, edges, tops of, stalls, wiping down, and just doing a deeper clean, resetting the mirrors all the way to the top more often, resetting the, any of the stainless steel work. And I think one of the bigger things, and it's kind of a bigger overall, is just this concept of moving from a reactive to a proactive.
Mhm.
And I think that's just an overall theme that it needs to be one of your initiatives that you consider if you're considering putting one of these in. Is that one of your initiatives? Would you rather just respond like it's always been and have it be status quo, or would you rather move it to become something where, hey, proactively, we've thought through all this and we're going to know exactly what is happening in that restroom? We even have systems where it flags us at certain number of usages.
Mm.
I mean, where do you get that kind of knowledge in 84 restrooms? So you have two cleaners covering it. Unless they go and see it, how do you have that tip off? Now, let's face it, one user in a restroom can blow the whole thing up. There's no question about that. But you're talking about on average, and the law of averages. So after 12 to 18 uses, you need to get in and change, to update things. And so now we're being told when that is. And that proactive approach is really life-changing. In an airport environment, I've heard it argued, well, it's so busy anyway that you just got to get in there. Well, but how do you know where to get into? How do you know what you're going to do once you're in there? And those are just analytics that are extremely valuable. So
Yeah, and that's that's a great point in terms of just maybe, generally where the smart restroom technology might be a good fit, the type of environment, whether obviously in this instance, in this example was, an office building, a skyscraper in Minneapolis, but this can be utilized in a whole variety of areas where it's high traffic, in terms of casinos and arenas and stadiums and airports. We're really kind of in higher education with large campuses. You kind of can see where this could, manifest itself into different market segments. Um, I guess, one last question, and you did touch on it a bit earlier, but for and actually I'll take a step back. Another key takeaway that I just kind of took from your explanation was, getting the, for lack of a term, the buy-in from not only from the service provider, but from the, maybe the facility or property manager, the client. It really seems like it's got to be kind of a team effort to kind of get this implemented to make it successful. So, just another key takeaway that I took from your answers. But lastly, for other facility managers or BSCs, considering this technology, you had mentioned like has to be kind of a top-down type buy-in on this. Is there any other advice you would give, to somebody considering doing it? Why should I do it? Obviously this is a great example of a success, but is there any other advice you would want to share?
I would just say see the vision and see it. And a great example of that is, just some of the things that we've touched on, where you see the change within a team, where they're now requesting to be in a facility where this type of technology is. Well, there's a reason for that, and really be mindful of that in your own facility. And I want to go back and touch on something that you were talking about as far as busy facilities. And
Mm-hmm.
well, a lot of facility management teams are handed even a more difficult challenge than a busy facility. And that's a facility that's maybe a campus style environment, or you may have a main site and then you have redundancy sites or a data center that you have to watch in addition to that. That might even be 2-3 miles away. And there's just 2 restrooms in that. Or in a large campus, there's those 4 restrooms that are scattered throughout that don't get used very often. And you could use the tip off of when they are used so that you know to send a team in to reset them. And be mindful of that as well. This technology can give you that eye in place. And I think that could really feed into that bigger, broader thing that you can look at. Is this can solve a lot of problems, not just in restrooms. I mean, now we were part of the team that signed an NDA with your organization to learn and understand back in the 18-19 time frame of how to route traffic in a building, or how to read the routing of traffic in a building, and then have that relate to janitorial resources. And that's something completely valuable as well. And now with a lot of systems with their current updating, they're learning and understanding how to incorporate AI into that to really give you a driven. Like all of it, you don't trust an email that you wrote that's important with AI. You don't trust that, but you use it, save yourself 80% of the time, but then spend the 20% adjusting what was created there and make sure there isn't any edits or duplicates or embarrassing things in there.
I'm guilty of that.
Well, it's the same thing here. I mean, we can help. We can use this as a resource, and that would be a much bigger picture item to really save on the resources that a customer may need in janitorial, to reroute us, to show us a better way to do it, and challenge our thinking. It may, at the end of the day, be something we may not want to adjust or change, but at least it brings up a new approach to look at it. And I think that's what everybody is kind of looking to do, is to have those conversations to validate exactly where they're at in their programs. And this can help do that tremendously.
Yeah, I mean, the service validation is an enormous aspect, especially in the service provider world, where you're able to validate the service that you're providing to your client. And that's just becoming a very big key metric to be able to share. So, I mean, John, thank you again for joining us and sharing your expertise with our Onvation Smart-Restroom technology and the specific example with the CMT building. If anyone has questions on the operations side, feel free to connect with John. If you'd like to learn more about Kimberly Clark's Smart-Restroom technology, Joanna and I are happy to help. I did take a peek at the chat, and there are a couple questions in here, so I'm just going to slide these over so I can kind of get to them a bit easier. And then, so there was a question from, bear with me a sec. Oh, I lost it.
Hey, Stephen, I saw one of the questions. We do have a worldwide audience here, which is very surprising. So
Cool.
exciting. One of the questions is it available in India? Our technology is North America only, so we can answer that one. I do want to give a shout out to Peter Cromley, who is a BG grad and from Toledo, Ohio. That's where I'm from. So, hey, Peter, I just linked in you. I thought that was kind of cool. And Stacy, who's responsible for tracking the data. The data is actually automatic. The data is learning and alerting because it's all built in. So as the system is monitoring, your cleaner is getting an app, and thank you, Stephen, for jumping in when something went wrong on my end. But your cleaner is respectively has an app on their phone or a smart pad. Most often it's a personal device that they sign into a secure app. The app does have 6 languages. The app will alert them for their respective territory that they're cleaning during the time that they're cleaning. And then the dashboard is for leadership and all those algorithms, all those real-time alerts and what has gone in the history in terms of product usage, how people are performing, where you're seeing your results are all aggregated and analyzed through the system. So it's almost plug and play.
And it looks like there was one other question from Ray. It said, what is the best digitalization tools in washroom management?
I didn't understand that question.
Yeah, Ray, if you could add into the chat if there's maybe a little bit more detail specifically, if there's anything specific that you wanted to ask on that. We're a little unclear on the question. Okay.
I would say
some of the other things available.
Yeah, go ahead, John. No, you go, John.
No, I was just going to say some of the things that we see out there. Maybe just what's available. Maybe Ray's question, and some of the general technologies we've seen is the red-green lighting. We're seeing that more and more in both stadiums and in airports, and that's definitely a service that we have provided as well. But it's it's going to show you which stalls are available at the time. Also, directional traffic. You can have like in an airport environment, you could have the data publicized on a almost like a FIDS screen in the airport. That's for the flight information data where you see your arrivals and departures. But this would be a screen that would just show you it's a 4-minute walk and there's 8 available stalls in the men's and 4 available in the women's right now. So you're going to have a 3-minute wait once you get there, that kind of a thing. And then, okay, but it's a 12-minute walk to go somewhere else. And that's where you're going to get that. So, and then there's also, survey tools that you can interface right in the wall of the restroom or at the entrance or exit of it, where people can do like a happy or smiley face, depending on what the experience was in the restroom for customer satisfaction. I've cautioned people in ballparks because if their team is losing, they get a lot of negative feedback. And if their team is winning, everybody loves how clean the restroom was. So it's, you have to kind of field some of that data, and the experts know how to do that. So.
Mm-hmm. Great way to respond to that. Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, we don't think we see any more questions in the chat. Again, want to thank John Sutherland for joining and offering his expertise and his experience. Joanna, thank you for walking through. Joanna, again, is the innovation specialist for the West region for Kimberly Clark Professional, and based out in San Diego. And I am the key account manager for Kimberly Clark Professional that really kind of supports the property management and building service contractors market segment nationally for Kimberly Clark Professional. And I am based in northern New Jersey. So as earlier stated, you got both coasts and you got John in the middle. So we appreciate the opportunity to kind of share this information. Hopefully you found it riveting as much as what smart washroom technology can be. And if there's no other questions, I think, there's one last one pop through.
There
Is
is
this available?
Stacy. Stacy Aaron is great question. We should have covered this, Stacy. Is it available at no charge to the customer? This, what is included is installation and support and all dispensers. With that, there is a monthly cost. It's a connectivity cost, much like your iPhone. How we determine the cost for a facility is we do a building a profile where we gather the number of restrooms, the number of dispensers, soap, towel, and tissue, and then we run it through our quoting tool, and you will get a monthly fee associated with the technology. Again, all the dispensers, the support, the installation, anything needed is all pulled together into a monthly fee and then supported with a 3-year agreement. Very good question, Stacy. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for the question. We, like Joanna mentioned, we probably should have covered that, and we didn't. So thank you for asking that.
We should have covered that. I think I just got tripped up with.
Yeah, I'm blaming Joanna for that.
We appreciate everybody joining from all over. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah,
and thanks to the IFMA for hanging with us to get through this little hiccup of a technology. I think it went okay with all of us. Thank you so much.
And with that, I mean, we'll be respectful of your time and give you back some time leading into this. Again, Joanna, to your point, thank you to IFMA. John, thank you. Joanna, thank you. We appreciate it. Hope you find this educational. If you have any questions, again, you'll see our information at the tail end of this. Please feel free to contact any one of us if you want to learn more, have a more detailed conversation, or if there's an opportunity you'd like to explore. Thank you.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.